Mimer on the seventh page of your downloads, page Yud Aleph, and it's on line 22. And we were talking about the levels of Ava, that there is a love that we inherit from the others, and that love is such a type of love that must also include in it the level of bit, because the reason why we have this level of love is because the others were a merkava, because they were a vehicle, because they were a chariot for Hashem. Now, the whole idea of a chariot is not about what the chariot gains or receives or wants to get from the rider of the chariot, but it's total bit. Whereas love in general is about, I want something, I want to create a closeness between the myself and my beloved. So therefore, the Rebbe said that the love, the innate love that every Yid has it also a bittul love, a level of love where it's not about my closeness, that I want to be close to Hashem and I want to have that type of connection, association, but rather it's a love that's a matter of bittul, that he wants completely to have the will and the intention and the purpose of the Eibishter fulfilled. It's not about himself, it's all about Hashem. So now the Rebbe is going to continue that even with this type of level of this deeper love, it's still love. And if it's love, it's not complete bit. So again, line 22, bottom of page Yural. We need to do what's known. The Ava hi, Ava barotzen the Adam ha'oihev. Since that love is the love and the will of the person that loves. Therefore, even when the love and the will is that the divine will should be fulfilled. In other words, like we said, this higher level of love, this more selfless love, it's not about me, it's about what Hashem needs to be done. The still in all. The very idea of the love and the very idea of will, the very nature, the very makeup of that is existence. In other words, it's about I love. True, I love not for my sake, I love for Hashem's sake, but it's still my being coming into the picture. The true idea of bittul, as he's going to say on the top of page Yud base, continuing Ba'avodah the Kabbalah soil, Avodah the accepting of the yoke of heaven. That's the true idea of bittul. That Kabbalah's oil is like a servant that has no independent wills and desires. And everything that he does is because of the yoke of the master that resides and is set upon him. Because of this, it's necessary for him to fulfill the will of his master. In other words, there's no me, like we said before about the roich. We could say the should bit since the bit of the vehicle of the wagon to the rider is not because of the will of the wagon, like we said before. That the wagon has no will, that it wants to be bottled to the rider, it wants to be a vehicle to the rider. This is entirely not by the initiation of the vehicle, it's by the initiation of the rider. The rider brings the vehicle or brings the horse to a state of fulfilling his will. Therefore, as an inheritance for the forefathers, that from the forefathers, that we said before we brought from Tanya, that the Avis, Hein Merkava, they had the level of a bittul of a wagon, of a vehicle. So therefore, it's called Ba'al and Gama Bittul Kabbalah soil. Therefore, in that acceptance and bittul of the Eibishter accepted is and is concluded in it, the acceptance of the yoke of heaven. And to note from the statement of the Chazal in the sugya of Matan Torah, we mentioned this in the previous mimer, that it says Yisrael that when the Yidden preceded and prefaced and said Nasa before they said Nishma, Mi Gila Lebonai Rosa, who revealed to my children this secret that Malachim know of the secret of Nasa before Nishma. We brought in the previous mimer a pasuk that speaks about it. The word Chassidus explains the fact that the Yidden prefaced and said Nas before Nishma, even in the bittul of accepting the yoke, there's different levels of that Kabbalah soil. Saying Nas before Nishma is a very high level of Kabbalah soil. It's a level of Kabbalah soil that the bittul is to the master of the will, not to the will. When you say Nishma, you say whatever that will hear what you have to say and will be bottled with. But Nasa before Nishma is, I don't know what the will is. I'm being bottled to the Balarotz. I'm relying on you that whatever you want, we'll do. And how does a person reach that level of Nasa before Nishma? How does he reach such a high level of Kabbalah soil? Why the Gilui Ava is through revealing the concealed love, the level of secret. In other words, the Chazal says, who revealed to my children this secret that the Malachim say, Nas before Nishma? But the Rebbe is emphasizing, let's put aside the idea of the Malachim, the Rebbe is emphasizing a different point. The Nasa before Nishma comes from a secret place. What is that secret place? The concealed love within each and every Yid. So the fact that Yidden can have this type of Kabbalah soil, to have this type of secret, that comes from the concealed and secret love. Yet, like soil. What's talking the connection of this concealed love, which we said before, love does involve the person's existence, to prefacing Nasa before Nishma, which is the bittul of Kabbalah's oil. It's not about Metzius, it's about bittul. Like we said before, how did we get this concealed love? Because it's inherited from the forefathers, which are Merkava. In other words, this love is a result of the bittul of Merkava. Therefore, we can have the bittul of Nas before Nishma out of our love, because invested in it or embedded in that love is the bittul of Merkava. The Rebbe continues in line 18, this is understood. The bittul shenim shel Yisrael v'matan Torah. The bittul that came down to the Yidden during the giving of the Torah, after preceding and saying Nas before Nishma, it's even a higher level of bittul than Merkava. So in other words, like this, we said, why did the Yidden say Nasa before Nishma? Because deep inside their love, they have what they inherited, this Kabbalah soil, this Merkava nature that they inherited from the Yavis. And that's why they were able to reach such a powerful level of bittul. The bittul to Balarotz and this Kabbalah soil that it's not even, we've had this another Amor, it's Kablu Malchusi. It's not even Kablu Gzeiroisai. Kablu Gzeiroisai, accepting my decrees and my mitzvahs, that's Nishma. Nas before Nishma is Kablu Malchusi, it's Shema before Vahayim Shemaya. But that was all the Nas of Nishma before Matan Torah. That is all the bittul of the Merkava of the Ovis. By Matan Torah, there's an even higher level of bittul. That's what he's going to go on to explain. What is this higher level of bittul, even higher than Merkava, higher than Nas of Nishma, that was accomplished after the Nas of Nishma, Nas before Nishma by Matan Torah. Let's see further in line 22, Aizba. Who the idea behind this is this is the Gemara brought down the Gemara Amr all over Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. They said about Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, there was not a major thing nor a minor thing that he left behind. He had, in a simple sense, occupied himself and was involved in all components and all aspects of the Torah. The Chazal go on to say, what are these different components and aspects of the Torah? Davar Gadol, Ma'aser Merkava. What's considered a great matter that Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai was involved in? That's the actions and teaching of the supernal chariot above. Davar Katan, what's considered a minor thing, Havayas, the Abaya V'Rava, the discussions, the questions, the give and take, the back and forth of Abaya and Rava. Abaya says this, now Rava argues with him, etc. This is the Gemara. Now, going back to the Maimer of the Rebbe Marash that we were quoting from Parshas Baha'alotcha Tafresh Chavtes, Mevur Maimer, it's explained in that Maimer the Rebbe Marash top of page Gimel, that Tam Shemais Merkava Nikra Davar Gadolu. Why is the actions and teachings and discussions about the Merkava called something a major thing? Ki idea Merkava Magia Adam Aroiche Val Merkava Lamatin Shediachol Agil Sham Tzadatzmai. What does a person need to have a vehicle for? In a simple sense, if I could reach there without the benefit of a vehicle, I wouldn't really need the vehicle. Yeah, these days we're become a little bit sedentary, and even to go around the block, we'll get into our car. But normally, what was the Merkava invented for? Why was a vehicle created? There's far, far distances. It's very difficult to travel so far, especially if we have to carry things and transport things. So the vehicle is meant to get me to somewhere that I wouldn't ordinarily be able to reach. So that is also the idea of the Merkava El Yoin. Line 4. Moikin of Merkava El Yoin is so too. It's in the supernal chariot. We say that the wild beasts, the face of the lion and the oxen face and the eagle face and the human face that's on the Merkava El Yoin, they raise up the throne that's upon this Merkava. And they raise up the image of a person that's upon that throne, and they raise these two things up, the Merkava and the person upon the throne, to the image of the person upon the throne, a level that's not man. It says, who it says by Hashem, he's not man. We're raising the Adam to a level of loya. Now, there are different levels of Merkava. There's Merkava that just I mentioned of the Chayis Ve'Fani HaKodesh. There's the Malachim's Merkava. And then there's the Merkava we've been talking about up till now, the Merkava of the Avis, the Merkava that the Avram Yitzchak Yaakov were Merkava. The Merkava of the Chayis Malachim is primarily the Merkava, the way it's located in Bri Yitzir Asiya. And the Merkava of the Avis are primarily in the world of Atzilus. Avram is Chesed Atzilus, Yitzchak is Gvur Atzilus, Yaakov is Tiferes Atzilus. So now he's going to say, the Iker Halah, line 6, Lebchinas Loy Adam, the primary elevation that we reach all a level that's Loy Adam, beyond the level of Adam. But Merkava, the Avis, is in the level of the divine chariot of the forefathers. Avis ain't in a Merkava. The Avis are considered the Merkava because they are the level of Merkava Datzilus. So he says as follows. Even the Merkava, even the Merkava, the Malachim also elevate their Adam to a relative level of Loyad. Ki aliyah, the B'chinas Adam, B'chinas Loyad. Shaydei Merkava, the Bri Yitzir Asiyam, the ascending an elevation of the level of Adam to a level of Loyad. That's through the Merkava of Yam. Isha Adam Sha'ala Kisei. Adam, the Bri Yitzir Asiyah, it's that Adam that's on the throne of Bri Yitzir Asiyah becomes elevated to a level that's Loy Adam comparative to the Adam that's of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. So it doesn't become elevated to something that's truly not Adam. but it becomes elevated to a level that relative to Bri Yitzirasi, it's called Loyal. That is only the Merkava of Biak, the Merkava of the Malach. How about the Merkava of the Avos? Line 13. By there, Merkava the Avos, Merkava the Atzilas, Nasa Ali, the Bchinas Adam the Atzilas, the Bchinas Loy Adam Shalomayim Atzilas, through the Merkava of the forefathers, which is the Merkava of the world of Atzilas, becomes an ascent to the level of Adam of Atzilas, to the level of Loy Adam that's beyond Atzilas, which is the level of Arich, the level of Loy Adam that the Merkava of the Avos elevate the Adam of Atzilus to, is to the level of Arich. Based on this, we could explain what we said before, that Ma'aser Merkava is called Davar Gadol, a great, a big thing. Line 16, V'zosh Ma'aser Merkava Nikra Davar Gadol, Ki Adam, the level of Adam is associated with Ze'er Am. The spheres of Atzilus are called Ze'er Ampin. That's the level of Adam. Ubechinas Katnas v'Tzimtzum. Ze'er Ampin means small faces, small revelations. It shows on the level of something that's minor and constricted and constrained. By the Merkava, whom is Alul Ubechinas Arich Gadol. Through the Merkava, he is elevated and he rises to the level of long. Arich Ampin is the counter to Ze'er Ampin. Ze'er Ampin is minor faces. Arich Ampin is long, great faces. So Merkava, which raises it up, the Merkava of Atzilus primarily, the Merkava of the Avos, which raises it up to the level of Arich, that is called Davar Gadol, because it brings it up to the level of Gadlus, beyond Tzimtzum, beyond Katnus. On the other hand, let's examine the discussions of Abaye Rava, why they are called Davar Katan and Minor. Line 20, Batam Shavais Abaye Rava, Kroim Davar Katan. The reason why the discussions and give and take of Abaye Rava are called a minor thing, Afshu Ikir B'Torah Shabbat, though Abaye and Rava, the discussions is a very core and primary thing in the oral Torah. What's the majority of Torah Shabbat about? Halacha, what you do, what you don't do, and therefore there's all these different discussions and machlokes and proofs and back and forth between Abaye and Rava. The Ma'aser Merkava is not a major thing that we delve into, whether in the Torah Shabbat or the Torah Shabbat. So, how do you call the Havayis of Abaye and Rava a Davar Katan? Literally, space-wise, you talk about the discussions in Halacha, it takes up a lot of space, a lot of pages in the Gemara, is all these type of discussions and give or take. By the way, it's not limited to Abaye and Rava. It means such as the discussions of Abaye and Rava. It means the entire give and take and back and forth that Gemara and Torah Shabbat is about. So the Rebbe explains why is Havayis Abaye and Rava called Davar Katan. Line 22, Hilchas HaTorah Nislabshu B'Dvarim K'tan. The halachas of the Torah were enclosed in minor things. So he's going to explain what does it mean was enclosed in minor things. The noise was first of all, was enclosed in physical. That's what halachas is about. That's what the discussions of the Gemara is about. Havayis Abaye Rava. It's dealing about the physical. Physical in comparison to spiritual things, surely in comparison to Ma'aser Merkava, they're minor. It's a physical item. What relevance, what worth, what significance does a physical have? So that's one component and aspect of why it's called minor. Another reason why it's called minor is because mitzvahs are about being very minimalistic and very defined and very limited. He says, yes, b'chol mitzvah kama pratidinim, in every mitzvah there are many detailed halachas. The inyan ha'eschalkus pratim u'tzimtzum v'akbala katnos. The idea of division, which is the idea of details, is about constriction and limitation. Constriction and limitation, that is the idea of being something minor. So that's why the discussions of Abaye and Rava, all the arguments and all the discussions in the Gemara is called minor things. So now the Rebbe is going to point out in the brackets that realizing this, it's not just sometimes something is big and the other thing is little, but they're not extremes on the spectrum. But based on what we just now explained, the godless of Ma'aser Merkava and the minor aspect, the katnus of the halachas of Torah Sheba'al Peh, are two completely different extremes. Let's look in the brackets, line 26. According to this, the difference between the actions of the divine chariot to the discussions of Abai Rava is from one extreme to the other. A great matter. The true idea of greatness and bigness is when there's nothing that limits it in any way, if it's something that's unlimited. So what are we doing in Ma'aser Merkava? What's Ma'aser Merkava about? That which is even slightly limited or partially limited, the levels of Atzilus are being raised up to a level beyond limitation. So your direction and your intent and your focus is on believable. Who by the discussions of Abai Rava, top of page Yudalit, it's lahepech, just the opposite. It's it's taking the divine will, which on its own is something that's unbounded and infinite, and you're enclothing it in limited aspects in the minor thing. So it's completely two different extremes. Ma'aser Merkava versus Avayis Abai Rava. That is one point that comes up from the Maimer of Marash. Another point that Reb Marash explains in his Maimer, and the Maimer that Reb Marash he explains, and he continues another reason why the discussions of Abai Rava are called a minor thing. It's minor not because you're comparing it to Ma'aser Merkava. It's minor in comparison to the true or the essential core of Torah that will become revealed when Mashiach comes. Because the Torah that we learn at present is considered only a minor thing in comparison to the inner part of the Torah that will become revealed when Mashiach comes. The Gam, the Fisha Torah, another reason is because the Torah is also the Torah is only a metaphor and a garment for the infinite light of Hashem that's enclosed in the Torah. For this reason, because the Torah is only a garment, only a metaphor. It's called the metaphor of the early one. It is considered a mashal and a garment to the early one, to the one that preceded the world. In other words, Hashem. So since it is only a garment, since it's only a mashal and the metaphor in comparison to what to what you're explaining via the metaphor is only a minor thing. For example, we take a metaphor from physical things down here, use it to explain spiritual things above. It's obviously no comparison one to the other. So that's a third reason why Torah or the Havayis of Abai Rava is called a minor thing. So now he goes on and explains in line 10, we could say the Latam Shavayis Abai Rava Nikran Davar Kat Imnesha Torah Nislap Shabidvarim Ketanim. According to the first explanation, in other words, you can explain now the differences that come out between the different reasons of why Havayis Abai Rava is called a Davar Kat. So according to the first explanation, that Havayis of Abai Rava is called a Davar Kat because it's enclosed in minor things. Hatoya Davar Katan Umitzad Alavushim, the Torah, the description, a minor thing is because of the garments of the Torah. Those garments are minimal, are small, are constricted, and so on. Therefore, Moisef Yad Shatoyda the Aksha Vikudavar Cotton Gava Primis Atoyda Shalagal. So this gal loss of love that the Torah is considered a minor thing in comparison to to the inner Torah's can be revealed in Mashiach. And another thing he has, V'gami davar katan gaba erin safam lubish, but it's also considered a minor thing in comparison to the infinite light of Hashem that is enclosed in it. Al pitamzeh, by adding these latter two reasons, hatoyar davar katan hu gam benegel l'Torah atzma. The description of a minor thing is also concerning the Torah itself. That the Torah itself, not that the Torah engages with minor things, but the Torah itself is something that is minor. So if you're explaining how the Torah itself is also minor, so why do you need to have the first reason? It says in the brackets, Masha maybe gam tamarishan, reason why he also brings the first reason. The Torah wasn't clothed in minor things. You have a much more powerful reason to say why Torah is a davar katan. Why do you need to bring these other reasons? So he says, why do you need to bring the first reason? Because it's enclosed in minor things. Shlomo, we could say, keep it tams and mudgish, and this reason is emphasized. The difference between the questions of Abai V'Rava to the actions of Merkava, who chiluk min hakotza lakotza kanal. It's a difference from one extreme to another extreme. Whereas in the other two reasons, you don't see that extreme. In saying that the Torah enclosed itself in minor things, so you see these two opposites. Merkava is about raising up the limitation of Adam to lo Adam Buta, unlimited. And the Torah being enclosed in minor things is about taking the unlimited will of Hashem and enclosing it in limitation. So in that reason, the first reason that we brought, we see the great extreme between how we call Ma'aser Merkava a davar gadol and Havayis Abai V'Rava a davar katan. But in the other reasons, we see a powerful idea about how the Torah itself, not just what Torah engages with or is involved in, but the Torah itself is considered a davar katan. Any questions before we go on to another reason why Torah is called the davar katan? Havayis Abai V'Rava is called the davar katan. Sorry.
So is this saying God is in the details?
He encloses himself in those details. He immerses himself and invests himself in those details.
So they're minor, but obviously they're very important.
True. That's why there's the great mile of studying Torah. Okay, Ayz Zion. This is the third paragraph where we started on the line 22. And the Maimer continues. Another explanation why the Torah is called a minor thing. It's because the powerful bittul of the halacha in comparison to the infinite light of Hashem that's enclosed in the halacha. Just like the Torah study of a person has to be in a state of bittul, like it says, my tongue will respond and say after you, and say your words, like someone that's responding after a reader. That the responder is not, he's just repeating the words of the one that's reading. That's the way, the ultimate Torah study way, that he's completely bottled. So just like the person has to be in such a state, so too it's concerning the halachas of Torah atzmam, that they're in a state of bittul Torah and like we'll soon explain. What does it mean that the halacha is completely bottled to the Torah itself? Yes, loymar the lapirish katan kipshutai, according to the meaning of the literal sense of small. Hadavar katan hu biyachas linyonim ached. When you use the word katan, it's in regards, in comparison to other things, it's called minor. Well, lapirish katan al shema bittul, but the point explanation that you're saying katan because it's bottled to the Torah itself. Al derech katainti mikol achsadim, similar to what Yaakov said, I have become small from all the kindnesses. Hakatnus bittul u'bay ba'atzmei. Feeling bottled is a state in myself. It's not about I'm bottled before something else. Now he's going to ask a question with Tzarech Long when you understand. According to explanation that cotton is referring and has to do with the bittul. Also, the merkava is bottled to the rider. Became the kras over gadol. Still in all, it's called a major thing. And so the question is, why is the Torah the level of minor and merkava major if they're both about bittul? And bittul is one of the meanings of cotton. The idea of cotton is talking about bittul. Merkava is also about bittul. So why is that also not included in the idea of davar cotton, according to this additional explanation of why it's called cotton, because of bittul? Ma'aser merkava is also bittul, not just the halachas of the Torah have the idea of bittul. Okay, we'll stop over here. We continue next week.